Good morning, everyone. This is the Penn State ISSIP team, and today we are showcasing our project, the automation and augmentation of ISSIP roles, using generative AI to explore data and quantitative modeling of a whole organization. I'm George Lukenhoff, and our team is going to show you what our project was, how we approached it, what we got out of it, and what we're going to do going forward. So here's just a brief outline of our presentation and who is doing what slide. So now I will hand off the introduction, which goes over the background information going into this project, to Dev.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim. So I'm Dave today, and today we are excited to present a project focused on leveraging AI to revolutionize the onboarding process for the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals, or ISSIP. ISSIP is a non-profit organization dedicated to advancing service innovation globally, supporting diverse participants at all career stages. As ISSIP grows, its onboarding process has struggled to scale efficiently. Currently, it depends heavily on senior volunteers to transfer knowledge, which is time-intensive and inconsistent. By integrating AI and leveraging tools like large language models, our projects seek to transform this process. These technologies enable us to convert tactic knowledge, often informal and undocumented, into explicit, actionable resources. The result is a dynamic, AI-powered guidebook designed to empower volunteers, streamline operations, and enhance engagement. While state-of-art approaches like manual briefing have worked, they lacked scalability. AI offers an opportunity to bridge this gap, but with the careful attention to ethical use and maintaining human oversight to avoid biases and or overtime reliance. Through this guidebook, ISEP can improve volunteer retention, operational efficiency, and knowledge sharing. In these next in these next sections, we will cover challenges, our approach, results, and future directions. Thank you. Now Shara is going to talk about problem statement.
Okay, so I'd like to talk about the challenges ISF faces with its volunteers onboarding process and our proposed solution to it. The main issue is that the current process is unscalable with fragmented documentation and a heavy reliance on tacit knowledge. Let me break this down. So firstly, we have knowledge reliance. A lot of ISF's operational knowledge is informal, passed along through conversations with experienced volunteers. This creates gaps, especially when volunteers transition in and out of roles. Secondly, we have resource constraints. Volunteers are balancing as a work with full-time jobs or academics. They don't have much time for extensive mentoring or manually documenting processes. Thirdly, we have growing complexity. As ISIP's program expand, managing the increasing complexity without centralized accessible role descriptions becomes a bigger problem. And then, to address these issues, our team is proposing an AI assisted guidebook. This guidebook will act as a comprehensive resource for volunteer roles, responsibilities, and timelines. It will include structured templates for recurring tasks and an FAQ section to streamline onboarding. Our key deliverables include the AI assisted guidebook for volunteer roles, a final report or white paper summarizing our findings and solutions. Then we have templates to standard to simplify recurring tasks. We believe this solution will reduce onboarding inefficiencies, ensure continuity, and make ISIP's operations more scalable. With that, I'll pass it on to Juma to talk about the project objectives. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'll walk us through the key objectives of our project, which aim to address ISAP's onboarding challenges and supports its mission of service innovation. So the first objective is enhancing volunteer onboarding. Our first objective is to create an AI-assisted guidebook that simplifies and improves the onboarding process by transforming tacit knowledge into explicit, accessible formats. We also empower new volunteers to get up to speed efficiently. Second objective is to boost operational efficiency. Operational efficiency is very important, and by automating repetitive tasks like reminders and documentation updates, we reduce the manual workload on ISSIP's members. Third point is to increase scalability. With ISSIP's growing complexity and frequent volunteer turnover, scalability is essential. The objective focuses on providing standardized role descriptions and task guidance to meet these challenges. Next, we promote accessibility and ethical AI use. We are committed to ensuring global accessibility by using free software and following ethical AI practices, ensuring the solution remains inclusive and responsible. Next, we foster volunteer engagement. By providing task clarity and better support, we aim to enhance volunteer retention by collaboration and overall engagement with ISSIP's programs. Lastly, these objectives form the foundation of our project, ensuring a future-ready solution that directly addresses ISSIP's needs while upholding its mission of service innovation. Next, my friend Eric is going to be talking about the approach of our project.
Eric, I don't know if you're muted.
Fuck, sorry, I was muted. My mistake.
No worries.
Sorry about that. So I'd like to go over the approach. This includes going over the creation process, showing our front prototype, and going over the Gantt chart. So for the creation process, we first modeled our programs by feeding high-level descriptions into various LLMs such as ChatGPT, Claude, and Copilot, and comparing the outputs to choose the best one. We saw that initially this was too broad, and it did a good job at summarizing the high-level information, but not the lower-level information and more tacit knowledge, such as specific tasks and specific timings for these tasks. We began modeling these programs by combing through ISSIP documentation to specify the tasks, and we fed LLMs this documentation to generate more applicable tasks, timings, onboarding suggestions, and future directions. For our final prototype, I'm just going to show quickly a program and some platforms. So we have the MyTeamMe T-shaped skills platform. And it shows that each platform has a description, a list of tasks with their corresponding timings or dates. We have some templates for the tasks, like certain forms, Google Forms, promotional materials, and surveys. And we also have links to the historical documentation in the ISSIP Google Drive, as well as onboarding suggestions and future suggestions, sorry. And then I have 4 platforms here related to running the website. The format also follows the same from the as the programs. And so now let's just go over the Gantt chart real quick. This is our chart, and it outlines the key deadlines and deliverables. And so yeah. So now I'm gonna have George present our results.
So for our results, we had a couple main findings, and the first one being that the AI-assisted guidebook met important requirements that we set in our statement of work, especially the qualitative requirements, but I will go over the specific details in the next few slides regarding that. Another finding was that this project aligns with ISSIP's goals for onboarding by providing accessible, structured information for volunteers. You previously mentioned a lot of the documentation is fragmented or informally shared. And so the guidebook successfully assimilated all that information into one spot and made it a lot more accessible for volunteers to access the information that they need regarding ISSIP as an organization and all the programs and tasks that are specifically intertwined within that organization. Also, just being accessible through the format of the generative AI used, we leveraged, you know, all the coding that went into these AI to, you know, be accessible themselves. So we do believe that using this generative AI will provide, you know, a very equal and inclusive opportunity for many volunteers, but this can still be developed further on. And this project highlights a lot of, you know, observations that were noted in one very good reference that we used, which was the Jagged AI Frontier, which specifically talks about the context of how AI works with human augmentation and automation, what AI can specifically do and what AI can't do. It's a spectrum essentially, and where the intersections between human capabilities and AI capabilities intersect. And through this project, we really did discover what AI is good at and what AI can't do, and what AI needs humans to do with it to work best. And on the right is just a sample, small demo of sorts using the guidebook with Copilot. As we mentioned earlier, different LLMs work, but as you can see, this is all really good information that Copilot was able to generate just from using one document. So now I'll be talking about the VCRM, which specifically is our requirement set in the statement of work. A lot of the qualitative requirements we set, we do believe we reached. The first one though, OpenAI is level 5. Unfortunately, our guidebook cannot do all of the work of ISSIP. The human workers are still very much needed, so that's probably good news for some people. But yeah, by and large, we cannot say it automates the entire organization. It is more along the lines of augmenting a lot of tasks, but through the output of Python code, it can automate some other tasks. And we did successfully retrieve information from ISSIP and other supplied documents regarding ISSIP. Now for some requirements that we didn't reach, you might notice the industry standard, the ISO 5055. That was more so just a lack of understanding of the scope. We expected to do a lot more coding than we really did. And this was a coding requirement that, you know, sets good practices for coding. So as that wasn't really applied here, unfortunately, we can't say that we met that. And you might notice a lot of the quantitative requirements are not met. Unfortunately, we didn't have the time to perform a lot of these tasks. That is definitely on our end, but you know, greatly understanding the scope was important in this project. And we do believe that these quantitative requirements will show a lot of ISSIP members and especially outside organizations how important using a guidebook for onboarding or just AI assistance in onboarding can truly affect an organization. And quantitative measurements will show this from an analytical and a more descriptive approach. And we do especially believe that measuring throughput and productivity will probably be the most important of these quantitative requirements. So now I will show a demo. Oh, shucks.
You said the keyword demo. As soon as you do that, if you don't sacrifice a goat to the demo god simultaneously, I don't know.
Yeah,
I saw the.
I think it was a chicken I did and not a goat.
Okay.
Okay, I understand what happened. I'm using Keynote, and this was a Google Drive file that was embedded in the Google Slides. I will show this after this presentation is done for a more comprehensive view of how this guidebook works, but you'll just have to trust me that you can put the file in a generative AI and it will give you a response.
I trust you. All right.
As for limitations that we've reached through this project is data dependency. This generative AI is heavily reliant on the data that you feed it. Whether that goes for the quality, the amount of data, how relevant it is. So having good documentation, clear documentation, consistent documentation is extremely important for the AI to give you good responses. The data that we got was most helpful was a lot of internal ISSIP documentation. And so just, keep feeding it important data and to be consistent with the kind of data that you give it is going to give you the best responses. Another limitation, which kind of just falls to AI in general, is LLM hallucinations. Now, much like humans in a way, daydreaming or looking at clouds, AI can also hallucinate, and it's often hard to detect if you're not trained for it or if you're not paying attention, because often it'll be grammatically correct or it'll look accurate, but the information will just flat out be false. We didn't encounter this too often within our project, but it is worth noting that this is a limitation of nearly all AI. And it is important to realize that you have to have good data templates, high quality training data, and you have to be very intentful or have to have very purposeful intent in what you're using your AI for to, monitor for these hallucinations and prevent them. Another thing is privacy and bias. We were pretty careful to not violate the privacy of anyone from ISSIP or anyone partnered with ISSIP in the process of using or making this guidebook and training the AI. We do realize that people that partner with ISSIP pretty much are allowed their names to be used, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't have any more private information like emails or phone numbers or anything going beyond that. And we do believe this to be a continual concern in the future. So just to be consistent and vigilant for privacy. User acceptance, we do believe may be a limitation. A lot of people may not be familiar with AI or maybe even uncomfortable with solely interacting with AI. And so they may need, instructions or demonstrations given to be more accepting towards this. The integration of personas may be helpful for this to bridge the gap between, just being AI and being more human in behavior. But we do believe this to be a limitation of sorts. And maintenance, as with all software, good maintenance is paramount. The documentation needs to be maintained, and AI maintenance is also important. A matter of fact, ChatGPT was just down on last night. And so just having good alternatives and just knowing what AI can do what is very important.
Absolutely.
As for our project expenditures, there's none. But it is worth noting that we did keep track of this of sorts. And if this project is pursued in the future, and possibly premium software is used, that this would change. But for our project, it did not. And now I'm going to hand this off to SK, who's going to be talking about the future developments of our project.
Cool.
So for the future potential developments, the first thing that we would hope would happen with the project is that it would advance further, as in it would scale more. So that would involve expanding the guidebook to include all of the ISSIP activities and programs. Currently, we have the main programs. And also another thing would be to create some sort of dedicated website or application. So the extra step of downloading the guidebook and uploading it to an LLM is taken out, and it's just a one-step process where the user can just click on a link and start asking questions immediately. Another thing, if that were to happen, an option that would be good to have is to have the option to use any LLM of choice. And actually, this is from some feedback that we got from the showcase event, where some people that we were presenting to actually appreciated that the way we made it with the guidebook and the Excel file allowed the user to basically use any LLM that they wanted. And someone actually mentioned that their workplace only allows them to use Microsoft Copilot, and they don't let them use any other LLM. So someone might have a restriction like that or a preference. So having that option would be very valuable for a lot of users. And also integration improvements would be good. like for example, improving the chatbot capabilities so it's better at handling more ambiguous queries. As like the newer a volunteer is to being a part of ISSIP, the more general and ambiguous their questions would be. So being able to work with that better, and also tasks that have a large number of steps, so the AI can kind of handle that. And of course, using ongoing like user feedback and updating the guidebook iteratively over time to add more capabilities and information to the guidebook so the AI can use it better. Another point of concern for future development would be ethical AI use, as there have been studies showing that AI do have biases that are of concern, and it would be important to kind of develop safeguards against those biases, and also to ensure transparency and fairness in how we prepare the data and how we use it and how we present it to the user as well. Another point would be to improve the accessibility of it. So, of course, to add support for multiple languages or whatever language the user wants to use the AI in. And also add support for voice input and output, as that would not only make the chatbot easier to use, it would make it more accessible for someone who might have problems looking at a screen or something like that. So that's it for potential future developments. I'll hand it off to George for the acknowledgement section.
So firstly, we would just like to thank our sponsor, Jim, for giving us this project and more generally just teaching us about AI and how we're going to use it in our professional careers. This project really opened our eyes towards the limitations, but more so the possibilities of AI. And a lot of the articles that Jim shared with us and the information that he shared with us really helped us broaden our horizons and become more curious about how this is all going to work, especially in our professional careers. And so we'd really like to thank him for giving us this project, but also really just his mentorship throughout this, and his feedback and his comments really helped us go forward with this and understand what we're doing. We'd also like to thank our faculty advisor, Dr. Srinivas Tamvada, for advising us and really pointing us in the correct directions that we were supposed to go with this project. He was just as curious as we were when it comes to AI, and a lot of his supplemental lectures and advice really helped us integrate and actually learn the fundamentals of AI while creating this project. So without him, we probably wouldn't have cared more about the mathematical aspects and how it actually functions. And it's always great to be, curious whenever you're doing a project and to know how it works on a fundamental level before you start applying it. We'd also like to thank our project coach, Katie Hurdle. She gave us a lot of advice for working within group settings and also just managing projects. So she was very helpful when it came to, just soliciting feedback regarding our presentations or how we were communicating. And she was very important in this process as well. So another round of thanks for all these members and their contribution towards us as a team and this as a project. Here's our reference sections. These were all highlighted in the white paper, but just mentioned here again.
Very good.
And thank you.
Great job. Wonderful. Well, I have to say, you've done a lot in an incredibly short amount of time. You've learned a lot, and I do have some questions. But before I do that, I just want to say, seriously, I've seen IBM presentations and Apple presentations that weren't as good as the presentation you all just gave. So great work on the presentation. What you accomplished in an incredibly short amount of time, like OpenAI was saying, AI that can run in organizations around the 2028 timeframe, I think, 2026. So now your minds are already thinking about stuff that I think you have ideas for how you can get there even sooner. So I think mission accomplished there. But I would like just to take a minute. So thank you all for the excellent work. just, some brief answers. I just want to hear from each of you one more time. The question, what did you learn about the strengths and weaknesses? Not, a complete enumeration, but what stands out most? One thing in terms of a strength or weakness with the current level of AI. And, I really like that last part with SK talking about the future, because I want to know, how you seriously think, because you're going to be entering jobs, how you're going to be using AI. So, George, what were the highlights for you on those two questions? And your presentation did an excellent job of enumerating it in a lot of detail, but just personally, what did you think?
So for the strengths of AI, from my perspective, it's just really great at summarizing a lot of information that would otherwise take me, hours or even days to process, depending on how much information it is and type of format the information it is. I know for a fact that I use Google LM for that purpose, especially in the white paper and going through a lot of those papers. Obviously, it's important to know what the papers are talking about, but I don't always have the time to be going through 50 page documents and finding exact quotes. So just being able to summarize a lot of that information, put it in a format that is easily digestible, the use of personas, so it makes it more easier to empathize in a sort of way with how different parties or different people may give out information or how they may receive information. So just the ways that it could summarize that and do it in different ways, I think is a great strength and how I like AI the most. Now for a drawback of AI, I can get with engineering, you have to be very technical, but I would just, even for other businesses or other professional practices, you can get even more technical, like the medical field. And I would, if I was using AI for something like medical diagnosis or prognosis, I'd be kind of worried. I think AI for high risk, high detail tasks, I don't trust it much. I think there's too much margin for possible errors or hallucinations that were discussed earlier. And, maybe the accuracy is improving day by day, and it's a very acceptable degree of accuracy. But for something as important as, the medical field or finance, you wouldn't want to have one of those hallucinations occur. And, just getting to very high risk, high detail tasks, I'm still not convinced with the capabilities of AI yet.
Okay. Yeah. And, as you look into the future, how do you imagine you're going to be using it in your job role?
But in the future, I guess it really depends on my job. I still don't have a clear image of that yet, but I would say I just kind of want to use it like any other tool in my tool belt, not something that I rely on, not something that is the job itself, but something that just makes my day by day easier, or, it fills in gaps, kind of like a wingman.
Okay.
I'm doing the most important parts of a project, or I'm writing the most important parts of a paper, but I want
Yeah.
this AI to kind of come in and swoop by and, fill in some sections maybe I wasn't considering, or, write in a very eloquent prose that I'm probably not capable of. And then, it sounds small when you just list the details like this, but it really adds up and it really saves time. And that's what I'm looking for, saving time for things that would otherwise take a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Thanks, George. I'm just going to go across to where I see people. So Eric, you're next in my viewfinder. So,
I think the strength that I learned about, and a term that I learned about and discovered through this project was retrieval augmented generation, and just how good ChatGPT is at extracting precise information that you need given a flood of information. Just way more than we can effectively process without, getting tired, having our brains foggy. It does a very good job And I see that applying a lot in my field as a computer science major, because when I give ChatGPT documentation for code bases and libraries, I think it could save me so much time accurately extracting like the correct documentation for functions or APIs very accurately. And I think that's going to save me a lot of time in the future. And it's probably my favorite part that I learned.
Okay. So that's how you imagine using it in the future as well then. Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Thanks, Eric. Shahir?
So I think one of the advantages, like George mentioned, is like I really like how it can take like any form of document, not just Excel, not just a Word document, not just a PDF, but it's like a combination of everything. And I feel like that's a really good advantage. Like you don't have to format everything into just one file, like just Excels. You can
Yeah.
just give it everything and it can just read through that. And I think one disadvantage which I personally don't like, and especially like popular LLMs like ChatGPT, is privacy. I know that if so when I do work for a company, if I had to put any information, I don't want it to go out. But in things in like LLMs like ChatGPT, they do go out, and I think that's a major disadvantage. I think for the future prospects, I had someone at the showcase who said this, like they wish that they had their onboarding process like through LLMs, like if they could ask questions. So I think I would wish the same thing, like because it would be so much easier than just going to your manager again and again for like simple tasks.
Yeah.
Secondly, I think, for instance, if my team had to make a decision, but we are at a conflict, like 2 votes for something and 2 votes for something, and we are like what to do, we can always just ask LLMs what are pros and cons of
Mm.
these decisions per se, and then we can list through that, see through that, and make the right decision, I feel like.
Good, good. So you think in your future job role, it can avoid disputes if you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. That's a very good insight. Yuma, I know we're getting short on time, so I don't mean to abbreviate you or at all, but we'll move along.
No problem, it's fine. So I think as students, we all noticed how AI is helpful for long documents and large data sets for sorting and reading and other stuff. But I want to say that having a 24/7 assistant like is very helpful for as a student. So that's the strength that I think it's the most important. For the weaknesses, I think the context understanding sometimes for a deeper level context, AI doesn't understand, and hopefully in the future it does. That would be very extremely helpful. As for the future, depends on my work or my job. But I believe that I would let AI analyze my workflow and give me improvements and maybe some directions that I should try to be more productive.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. SK?
So for the strengths, I think the biggest strength of current AI at this point is its ability to read and comprehend information. I feel like this can't be understated because I've rarely ever had problems with the AI actually understanding what I wanted to say. I'd say its comprehension is limited by the user's ability to explain himself. So, I mean, we've never had anything like that before AI, and that I feel like that really can't be understated. And anything I tell the AI to do, it understands it. Whether or not it actually fulfills or it does what I want it to do, that depends. So also another strength I would say is its ability to write code and generally kind of do things that would take like everyday monotone tasks out of my hands and kind of speed things up, or like, for example, generate like a template for the presentation just to get me started. So maybe that saves me 15 minutes, but that adds up over time.
Yeah.
And for the weaknesses, I would say using AI, it still requires a more hands-on approach. It's not an assistant, as in it'll do things for you completely, but you still have to oversee and kind of overlook everything, all the work that it does. So it's not like you can just hand tasks off to it. So that is something that I feel like could improve in the future. And also, when it comes to like how I would use AI, I would want to use AI in the future to do like calculations and math. And as an engineer, I think it's very significant that AI is just not good at math. It's terrible at math, which I feel like it's not talked about much. So I would still never use it for calculations. I mean, I've had AI make mistakes in calculations, even like basic division and multiplication. I mean, it gives me different answers every time. So as an engineer, I mean, that's something significant for me. And for how I'll use it in the future, probably when it comes, I mean, specifically for LLM chatbots, probably as a research tool, because it can just browse the web way faster than I can. And also to like write code and generally speed up my work, I would say. I mean, that's currently the stage we're at right now.
Great. Thanks, SK. Dev, last but not least.
So I'm a big fan of AI, and I was very happy when ChatGPT came and everything. So, and I've spent huge amount of money on ChatGPT, and I still spend it. I spend like $200-$300 every month. I have like the ChatGPT business because I use that for my business and for my dad's companies and like for my employees too. So the greatest strength that I have seen in the ChatGPT is that it has like a personalized option where you can create your own personalized chat, and that has helped me to create different types of personalized chat, like chat for like Tally, chat for SAP, chat for like Microsoft softwares like Excel, if someone has doubt related to that. It has helped several of my employees, several doubts of me also, and I think that is like one of the greatest things I've seen for the AI, because
Great.
instead of just like typing on any kind of AI, when I type my particular question in the particular AI, it gives me the specific answer that I have required. For the weakness, I would say it crashes a lot of time. Let it be any kind of AI, still crashes a lot of time. It just needs a work on it. And
Yeah.
for the job purposes, I don't have really answer, because for the job, I would say it can help us save time through like scheduling the time management and stuff, like scheduling the meetings and also giving me a calendar of my work life and stuff.
Okay.
That's all.
Good. Well, check out LennyBot. I put it in the Zoom chat, but Dev, based on what you said, I think you definitely need, if you're spending that much money using these tools, you definitely want to check out LennyBot. Great. Thank you so much, team. I will be in touch. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but great job. Excellent job.
Thank you.